What's up, guys? This is James. I'm currently living in Marrakech, Morocco, and I've been living here for almost 2 months now. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about some common scams that you'll find here in this city. So, the first scam comes from a personal anecdote of mine where I was walking around one of these alleys after visiting a museum and I heard some music, so I was curious about it. So I walked over to the music, and there were these two guys just playing music and smoking. They were inside their riad, which is like their house, and they had the doors open, and they were sitting like at the front. And then we started talking. I think they started talking to me first, and then they invited me to come inside their riad to check it out, to look at it. And they seemed super friendly, and I was pretty naive, but I said, okay, sure. So I took a peek inside. It was pretty nice inside. And I even went upstairs for a few seconds to check it out, and they seemed pretty nice. And then, on my way out, they asked me if I smoked hash, and I said no. So they were trying to sell me that. And then they asked me for money, and I said, oh, but why? And they said it was because I looked inside their riad. And I said, wait, but you guys didn't tell me you were going to charge me. You guys just said, come on in. And, they were asking me for 150 dirhams, which is like $15. And, the price of a museum entrance is about 70 dirhams, which is about $7. So these guys were trying to rip me off. But anyway, I gave them 10 dirhams. I felt a little scared, to be honest. So I guess the moral of the story here is just, you can't trust them, even if they're really friendly, because some of the time they are trying to scam you. And, not all the time, but some of the time. Another scam that I encountered happened while eating at a restaurant. So, you go to a restaurant and typically they'll give you like, they might give you like some tea or some olives or something before you get your meal. And I remember I was at this one restaurant and I think I ordered like a fish tagine, which is kind of like a clay pot with some fish and vegetables and some bread. And they gave me some tea and, some olives, which was nice. Not every place gives you olives. And, the price was like 40 dirhams or something. And but when I got my bill, it was an extra 5 dirhams, and I said, "Why?" And they're like, "Oh, but we gave you olives." And it's kind of messed up because you think it's free because they give it to you and they don't say anything, but they charge you for it. And that only happened to me once. And to be granted, I was eating in a touristy area, so I think the moral of the story here is to just maybe don't eat in touristy areas because a lot of them try to do something really, I would say, unethical like this, something, kind of sleazy, but it happens a lot. So another common scam, well, I don't know if I would call this a scam, but basically when you try to buy stuff, and more so in the touristy areas, they try to rip you off. Like a lot of things have no price tag, and you gotta ask them, "Oh, how much is this?" Right? And then they always quote you a really high price. So in the U.S. they might ask you for like 20% more, but here they ask you for a lot more. So I bought this scarf. It's like a desert scarf, right? And I think I got sucked in. This guy was really good at selling stuff. These guys are professionals. They've been doing it for like decades. And anyway, he got me into his store, and I got interested in this scarf, unfortunately. And I asked him, "Oh, how much is it?" And then he quoted me 600 dirhams, which is about 60 US dollars. And I was like, "What? Are you crazy?" And I wouldn't pay $60 for this in the US even. So I offered him 50, and he's like, "Oh, come on, give me a good price. I give you a good price, but not 50." So we're just talking back and forth, and eventually I just say, oh, I think in New York I might pay like $10 for this. And he's like, okay, $10, let's do it. And I was shocked, I was just like speaking out loud, and I just shook his hand, and I bought it for $10. But like, if I would buy this in New York for $10, then I should probably pay a lot less in Morocco, right? But think about this. He asked me for 600 and it came down to 100. He was asking me for 6 times what I paid for it. And later on, after talking to some locals, I realized I still got ripped off. I could have paid like maybe like 40 dirhams for this, which is about like $4. So I think the moral of the story here is, just be careful when you're bargaining. Sometimes they ask you for like 10 times more or something. And you just gotta be smart about it. Maybe like check the prices in a couple different places. Bargain really hard. And if you don't want to buy anything at all and you don't want to deal with any of that nonsense, I would recommend that you just don't get sucked in. When they ask you like, hey, where are you from? Just say, oh, I'm fine, thank you, and just keep walking. And I think that's the best strategy. But if you do want to buy something, definitely be careful and look around, and try your best to get the best price you can get, because it's all about bargaining here in Morocco. I think somebody once told me Morocco is just one big marketplace. And you just want to do your best to get the best price you can get. And to be honest, I think bargaining, it's a lot of fun. It's not like in the US where we can't bargain, really. It's like here it's kind of a game, and they try to make as much off you as possible, and you try to give them as little as possible. It's a fun game. So here's another scam that happened to one of my friends that I made here. And basically it was I think it was his first night here, and he was looking for his hostel, and he was kind of lost. And the Medina, it's kind of like a maze, it's like especially tricky at night, and Google Maps doesn't really work. So he was kind of lost, and then somebody came and asked him, oh, do you need some help? And I'll help you find your hostel or whatever. So my friend started following him, and he was leading him on around, and then before long, he was surrounded by like 10 dudes, just walking with him and taking him to his hostel. And my friend was scared. He's like, oh shit, I'm gonna get robbed. So eventually they actually took him to his hostel, which was good. And they asked him for money, and my friend didn't have much cash, so we gave him like €1 or something, and they got really pissed off. But that was about it. And so he gave him €1, so it wasn't too bad. But it could have been a lot worse. I think he could have like gotten hurt, or like maybe he would have lost out on more money. So I think here the moral of the story is, when somebody offers you to help you find where you're going, just say like, oh, I'm okay, I got it. And just don't get involved, don't let them suck you in, because once you get sucked in, pretty soon they're going to be surrounded by like 10 dudes, and that is not a good situation to be in. So this next thing happened to another tourist that I met. It was also his first night, and he got in pretty late, around midnight, and he was looking for his hostel again. And like I said before, it's like a maze here, and Google Maps doesn't really work. So he was walking around, and he ended up in some dark alley, and then some people ended up following him. And one of them pulled out a knife and tried to rob him. But this particular traveler, he said he used to be a sprinter, so he ran away and he got away. But still, he could have been robbed. And I think the moral of the story here is to just be careful in these dark alleys of Marrakech, because I think, of course, robberies do happen. People will threaten you with a knife. I don't think they'll necessarily use it, but they just, at least they'll try to rob you. They'll try to scare you at least, and yeah, it's also not a good situation to be in. And finally, just a few words on some common scams that you've probably already heard about, but I'm just gonna say them briefly, real quick. So in the main square, Gemefna, there are these guys with monkeys and these guys with snakes, and they try to get you to like touch the monkey or something, and if you get involved, they might ask for money, or if you take a picture, they'll probably ask you for money too, and you know, it's not a good situation to be in either. So just don't take a picture, or like if you do want to take a picture, talk to them beforehand and say, hey, can I take a picture? And how much do I need to pay you? Because you don't want to like just have like them ask for like an arbitrary number that's like super super high. Um, Finally, a word on taxis. So here, especially in the touristy area, if you get in a taxi, they will never use the meter. If you try to get them to use the meter, they'll tell you it's broken, even though it's not. So you got to negotiate beforehand, tell them where you want to go, and set a price beforehand and figure it all out. From Gem Efna to the airport, it should be about 70 dirhams. Um, at night, they start to charge a lot more. What should be like a 30 dirham trip becomes a 100 dirham trip late at night. So be aware of that. And yeah, I think that's about it for scams. So yeah, Marrakesh, it's a pretty scammy place. There are scammers all over the place. They see tourists and they try to make as much money off you as possible. And I don't blame them for that. I think they don't make much money here, and a lot of European tourists come and they have a lot of money, so it's a good way for them to like earn their living. I think, even if to us it seems like kind of like wrong or something, but that's just the way things are here. I don't want to discourage anybody from coming here. It's pretty cool here, and once you figure out how things work here, it's a pretty cool place to just like live and just like spend some time in, and I'm pretty happy here. So yeah, I mean, please come to Marrakesh. Just protect yourself. And I think my best words of advice would be to just like not get sucked in, because once you get sucked into like a professional salesperson's store, it's kind of hard to get out, and it's hard to get out without buying anything, and without paying too much. So yeah, that's all it is. So good luck on your travels.